Welcome. This is Everyday Paradoxes Tiny Truths About Becoming, a 16-part audio series based on my book. These are reflections on the quiet contradictions that shape our growth. I'm Leslie DeMello. In each episode, we'll sit with one small truth from ordinary life, where psychology meets contemplation and insight becomes practice. Let's begin. Chapter 9. When you stop trying to be seen, you finally feel visible. Take a moment to let that sink in. When you stop trying to be seen, you finally feel visible. This chapter speaks about authenticity, it speaks about belonging, and it speaks about that soft power that comes from being yourself. Starting with the story, The Actor Who Forgot Himself. There was this story about an actor who was universally loved. The audiences adored him. Critics praised him. He was known as easy, charming, endlessly likable. One day, after a performance, someone asked him, "How does it feel to be so seen?" He paused and he said, "That's the strangest part. Everyone sees me, but I don't feel visible at all." And when they asked him what he meant, he said, "They see the roles I play, but they don't see me. And sometimes I'm not sure that I do either anymore." And that line kind of stayed with me, that last line. Sometimes I'm not sure if I do anymore. Because many of us, we may not be actors on stage, although some of us may be actors on stage. Many of us may not be actors on stage, but we've definitely learned to perform our way through life. We've definitely learned to perform our way through life. And we confuse applause with connection. We confuse approval with belonging. And we confuse being liked with being seen. And tonight we'll be exploring this very paradox. The moment we stop trying to be seen is the moment we finally feel visible. That's the moment we finally feel visible. Many of us want to be seen. And we don't want to be seen in a dramatic way, like some sort of superstar or some sort of rock star or some sort of influencer. We want to be seen in a more human way, who we are. Because we always wear these masks, right? We always wear these masks. When we are with our children, we wear the mask of a parent. When we are at our workplace, we wear the mask of an employee. When we are with our friends in a certain social setting, we are wearing a different mask. When we are with our family, we are wearing a different mask. So we keep wearing all these masks. So when we talk about seeing, we are talking about seeing who we are beneath the mask. And many of us want to be seen, right? We want to be seen, but not in a dramatic way, but in a human way. We want to be understood. We want to matter. We want to be chosen. And we most definitely want to be enough. And because that need to be seen is so tender, we learn strategies. Not loud strategies, quiet strategies. We become agreeable. We become easy to be around. We soften our opinions before we share them with others. We laugh at things that don't feel funny. And we keep reading the room constantly. And I'm sure you might recognize these symptoms. Someone asks you, how are you? We say it's fine. Or how are things? We say things are fine when it's really not fine. Something doesn't sit right with us, we still find ourselves nodding along, even though it doesn't sit right at all. We tend to choose harmony over honesty. And this is one of the biggest causes of breakdowns in our relationship. We choose harmony over honesty. And many of us, we tend to edit ourselves mid sentence because we don't want to offend. And these are not flaws, these are adaptations. These are those subtle strategies that we have started putting in order to fulfill our need to be seen. And over time, yeah, these strategies work. People like us, but we feel unseen. We feel like we are not understood. We feel like we are not recognized. We feel like we are not valued. So being liked but not known. Being liked but not known. And this shows up everywhere. You're praised at work, but you still feel like you're replaceable. You're the go to friend, but you never get a chance to share your own struggles. You're told you're kind, you're supportive, you're strong, but nobody ever asks you, how are you? You leave conversations feeling empty even though the conversation itself went well. And we start to think, everyone likes me, so why do I feel invisible? Why do I feel incomplete? And the answer to that is because approval landed on the performance, not the person. Approval landed on the performance, not the person. And our nervous system, it knows the difference. We can try to fool our mind, but it's difficult to fool the nervous system. We all want to belong, right? We all want to belong. But belonging built on performance is fragile. Because belonging built on performance, it's not belonging, it's bargaining. When we are changing ourselves to be accepted, what is being accepted isn't us. What is being accepted is the version of us that learned what was the safest to show. And deep down, there's always a whisper, but what if they really knew me? What if they really knew who I am? That whisper creates tension, vigilance, loneliness, even when you're in company. And true belonging, it doesn't ask you to disappear. True belonging asks you to arrive. There was this article or the small story that I read about this person who was the perfect dinner guest. They were always polite, they were always pleasant, they were never controversial, the perfect dinner guest. And one evening, someone commented that that person, that dinner guest, they were really lovely. And another person asked, so what were they actually like? And no one could really answer because they could remember the guest, but they never really knew that person. Because that person just adapted to fit into that situation. We can be liked by many people, but still feel invisible to ourselves. And then there's this big word, authenticity. What is authenticity? Maybe we can say authenticity is safety. Authenticity is safety. Authenticity isn't a performance of honesty. Authenticity isn't a performance of honesty. Authenticity is not oversharing. Authenticity is not rebellion. Authenticity is alignment. Authenticity is alignment because when our inside matches our outside, our nervous system relaxes. We stop managing impressions. We stop scanning for approval. And we stop bracing for rejection. And that's why authenticity is safety. Authenticity feels like relief. And it feels like relief not because everyone approves, but simply because we are no longer abandoning ourselves. And this is the point where visibility begins. And authenticity often tends to look small. It looks like letting silence sit instead of filling it up. Saying, I don't know, without apologizing. Admitting that you're tired instead of pushing through. Sharing an honest opinion gently without the need to over explain. Or even letting your face show what you actually feel. And these small moments, they don't draw attention, they draw connection. Because when we are real, when you are real, we give others the permission to be real themselves. They also feel that permission to be real. So a prompt that I would put out, if you're journaling or simply for your reflection, where in your life are you performing instead of being present? And what would happen if you stopped performing? When you're reflecting on these questions, it's best that we reflect on them without judgment. We simply notice what's coming up. Simply observe what's coming up. No judgment. Where in our life are we performing instead of simply being present? And what are we afraid would happen if we stopped performing? So, a small practice that we can do right now, very small practice. Place one hand on your chest and ask yourself gently, who am I when I'm not trying to be liked? Who am I when I'm not trying to be liked? And we don't need an answer to come. We simply want to notice what softens. Notice if anything softens. Because when we stop adjusting ourselves internally, that softening, it is the beginning of visibility. It's the beginning of giving ourselves permission to take that mask off. In the same topic, there's this belonging and there's fitting in. Belonging and fitting in. Fitting in, it asks, who do I need to be to belong? Because that's the criteria for fitting in. We need to be someone to belong somewhere. Whereas belonging simply says, I belong because I'm here. Fitting in, when we are trying to fit in, It costs us energy. It costs us effort. Belonging, it restores our energy. It restores our effort. It replenishes us. When we stop trying to fit, we may lose a few to many connections. When we stop trying to fit, we may lose connections. But what remains and whatever comes next will feel truer. And truth nourishes us in a way that performance can never. Truth nourishes us in a way that performance can never. So we'll now go into a guided meditation. This one is titled Being Seen Without Performing. So if it feels comfortable and if it is safe to do so, you can close your eyes and let your hands rest wherever they fall naturally. No need to place them deliberately. Take a slow breath in through the nose and a long, unhurried breath out through the mouth. One more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth. There's nothing you need to do well here. There's nothing to get right. There's nothing to present. In this meditation, you don't need to be impressive. You don't need to be pleasant. You don't need to be anything at all. Bring your attention to your face and notice those tiny muscles around your eyes, your jaw, your mouth. These are often the first places we hold ourselves. Without forcing anything, invite the face to soften. Invite your face to soften as if you've just realized you don't need to smile right now. Let the jaw unclench. Let the tongue rest. Let the eyes be heavy. Notice what it feels like when you're not arranging your expression for anyone. Now bring awareness to the shoulders, bring awareness to the chest. Notice how often these areas brace as if preparing to explain yourself, defend yourself, or to be understood. With the next exhale, let the shoulders drop just a little. Not collapsing, just releasing the effort. Let the chest soften, as if you're no longer waiting for approval. You don't need to hold yourself up right now. The ground is already doing that. And now, gently, without judgment, notice the version of you that shows up in the world. The one who knows how to read the room. The one who knows when to stay quiet. Who knows how to be agreeable. Who knows how to be easy. You don't need to analyze this part. Simply notice it. Notice the version of you that shows up in the world. And now imagine, very simply, setting that version of you down beside you, not rejecting it, not criticizing it, just letting it rest. You're not losing anything. You're just not wearing it right now. Notice how much energy becomes available when you're no longer managing how you're perceived. Notice the breath deepening on its own. Notice the body settling. This is what safety feels like. Not because everything is resolved, but because nothing needs to be hidden. Silently say to yourself, I don't need to be seen to be real. I don't need to be approved of to belong. Let those words sink beneath thought. Let those words move into sensation. Now imagine sitting with yourself exactly as you are. No versioning, no filtering, no improvement plan, just presence. Notice something subtle but important. You don't disappear when you stop performing. You arrive. There is a quiet solidity here, a sense of this is me. It's not dramatic, not perfect, but real. Rest here for some time. And now gently ask, not with words, but with curiosity. What does it feel like to be with myself without adjusting? What does it feel like to be with myself without adjusting? You may notice warmth, ease, a soft sadness, relief, or maybe even nothing at all. Whatever is here is welcome. Visibility doesn't always feel bright. Sometimes it feels like being held quietly. And silently repeat, I am allowed to be real. I don't have to earn belonging. I can stay. And before returning to the room, notice that this sense of ease is not created by isolation. It comes from self acceptance. You can carry this into conversations, into relationships, into silence, not by explaining yourself, but by staying with yourself. And begin to notice the room again, the sounds, the temperature, the weight of your body. Take a gentle breath in and let it out slowly. And when you're ready, if your eyes were closed, you can open your eyes. So, visibility doesn't come when more people look at you. It comes when you stop looking away from yourself. When our inner world and our outer world meet, we feel real again, present, grounded, at home. And that's the paradox. The more we try to be seen, the more invisible we feel. And the more we allow ourselves to be real, the more visible we become. So we don't have to shine brighter to be seen. We don't have to explain ourselves better. We don't have to prove that we belong. All we have to do is stop dimming. And we start small. One honest sentence. Of course, served with a dash of sugar. One honest sentence, one unedited moment, one quiet act of self trust. And that is where that connection begins. It's not in the performance, but in the permission to be real. Give yourself permission to be real, because that's where we'll actually finally feel visible. Not because the world is watching, but because finally we are, finally you are. Thank you for listening. This has been Everyday Paradoxes, tiny truths about becoming. Before you move on, you might sit quietly with these questions. What did I recognize in myself today? Where is this paradox quietly at work in my life? And what is one small shift I'm being invited toward? Becoming rarely announces itself. It unfolds in awareness, in small recognitions, in the gentle courage to see clearly. This series is based on my book Everyday Paradoxes, Tiny Truths About Becoming. It's a reflective guide meant to be read slowly, not for answers, but for insights that deepen with time. You'll find the reflection questions in the description along with details about the book. If this conversation resonated, you're welcome to like, share, or subscribe so these truths can reach others who may need them. Until next time, stay present, stay curious, and keep becoming.